Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bon Voyage Besties, your favorite travel podcast where we explore the world through friendship, adventure, and a little bit of wanderlust. I'm Rachel, and I'm joined by the world's best co host, Rosa. On this episode, we're welcoming back travel writer and foodie Valerie, the founder of the award winning travel blog, Valerie and Valise. You may remember our episode about Alaska, where Valerie shared her expertise. In addition to promoting the beautiful state of Alaska, Valerie also runs another website, eatlikebourdain.com. Inspired by Anthony Bourdain's curiosity and his belief in connecting through food, Valerie created her site to help travelers open their mouths, minds, and hearts to the world. We can't wait to chat with her about following in Bourdain's footsteps, her favorite destinations, and how food connects us all. So welcome back to the show, Valerie. We're so happy to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome. So I was a little late to discovering Anthony Bourdain's work. I think I started watching Parts Unknown in 2016 when I first moved into my current apartment. But when did you first discover Anthony Bourdain, and what about his perspective on travel resonated most with you?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was also, I think probably even later than you, to the Bourdain train. I don't remember ever watching his show on TV because he was on cable and we didn't have cable when I was growing up. And I think I might have read Kitchen Confidential, but I couldn't even tell you when. Really, when I became interested in Bourdain was when he died in 2018. And I had been kind of vaguely a fan up to that point, but his death hit me really hard. And so that was when I went back and started rewatching the old catalog of shows and reading a lot of his works, immersing myself in his philosophy of travel, and kind of was his effort, like for many people, was really a pivotal turning point for me in my life and my career. And so though I was late to get on board with this train of thought and way of traveling, it was very impactful, and I just try and keep passing that on. That's why I started the website.
Yeah, I love the website. I think it's such a great idea.
Well, it's funny. I get a lot of feedback that, well, Tony would hate this and blah, blah, blah. Like, well, first of all, Tony's not here. I mean, we don't know what he would think about anything at this point. There's a lot of things he would have stronger opinions on, I think. But
I'm sure.
Yeah. But I think that at the end of the day, the people who see the spirit of it, which is like, it's a guide to visiting probably places with really good food that have interesting stories that are in places that he found fascinating. If he's the reason that you get out the door and go, that's a great reason to go. I'm not going to judge anybody for that. I mean, it's part of what inspired me to start the site. So whenever anybody says Tony wouldn't like it, I'm like, we don't know what Tony wouldn't like, but I'd like to think that he would. I like to think of it also as supporting all those small businesses that he visited. So like, I'm happy to make sure people know where to go if they're going somewhere and they don't know where to eat.
And it's a great resource. I know I browsed through it and you take out the guesswork, right? Because I know for myself, I love to experience new cuisine when I travel, but sometimes finding those like good restaurants takes a little bit of effort and work. So having that accessible and like a reputable person that you trust their opinion makes it a little bit easier, because now you're not eating crappy food when you're going to a new destination. And granted, taste is very subjective. I always tell people that maybe I might find a restaurant delicious, you might not, or you might not have the same experience that I have when I visit. So it's all very subjective, but I feel like it's a great resource because you compile all the information readily accessible right there.
Yeah, it's a good starting point. If it gets you a couple meals and then you figure out the rest for yourself, great. That's what it's good for.
It does its work.
Yeah, definitely. So you talked a little bit, Valerie, how you were kind of late to the Bourdain game, so to speak. Like I said, for me, 2016 was when I started watching Parts Unknown, and I actually had it on repeat. I think that was the only reason I had Netflix at the time, because with this new job, I couldn't travel as much. So I legit had the episodes on repeat, and they got me through some difficult times. I always call like 17 to 2019 like the dark years for me, because I just had a lot of like personal upheaval in my life that I won't get into. But was there a specific episode of his, a book or quote that completely changed how you travel?
It's a great question. I think now that I've seen so much of the shows, and I haven't seen all of them, I have not seen all the episodes. So you will notice if you're reading a guide that they may be written by people who are not named Valerie. I had several other guides who were familiar with other parts of the world help me with certain regions, because I found that there were areas of the globe that I could like listen to the show and understand the food and describe it accurately. And then there were areas that I haven't been that it was really difficult to kind of articulate what we were seeing or what dish was being served. So I worked with other writers, but I think the ones that impressed me the most, I just had to go back through and write about them, because I had sort of tried to cover the whole world and came back on some that I had missed. And one was Borneo. And what I like about Borneo, because Borneo is a particularly interesting geographic place. I mean, it's an island, but it has 3 different countries on this one island, is that he visited twice. And his first visit was at a very tumultuous point in his life. And his second visit was at a very tumultuous point in a very different way. And so these 2 episodes are really stark contrasts. In fact, I believe it's Borneo that it's in one of the more infamous chapters of the Tom Vitale semi-biography called Into the Weeds. This is all the same place, but it was interesting because there's one of his most famous quotes that I'm not going to even try and quote, but it's about travel being uncomfortable and you just try and find the way to connect with people and be open-hearted. That's from that Borneo episode. Like, it was specifically, he was very introspective because of what was going on with his life. So his voiceover was particularly poignant. And one of his most famous quotes comes from that episode. And it was one that I hadn't covered on the site until like maybe 3 or 4 months ago, because I thought I had covered it in the Indonesia and Malaysia. I thought we'd already covered it. We had not already covered it. So I had to go back and rewatch those episodes. And it was just kind of shocking. I mean, those are also the episodes, that's the destination where he does his pig slaughter twice on screen, which was pretty, especially for No Reservations, that was pretty confronting for audiences. So it's kind of like an iconic episode that I somehow just sort of missed. It has one of the most famous quotes and one of the most famous scenes. And it made me really feel connected to him as a person, which I think was the thing he brought really special to being on screen, is that you felt like you knew him. He did that sort of parasocial engagement really well. And that's sort of a techie term, but basically means like making your followers like you, making them think you're like a friend of theirs. He did that really well, and those 2 episodes really show that off, in addition to all the other things that make them iconic. So that's probably one that stands out the most. There's lots of others. There's lots of other great ones, but that one's pretty particular.
I need to go watch it now. Similar to both of you, I've heard of Anthony Bourdain. My cousin, she was a really big like foodie back in like the mid 2000s, 2015, around there. So she would always talk about him, his amazing experience. At this point, she would travel to do like wine harvest, and she would make it a goal to visit different areas that Anthony Bourdain like highlighted in some of his shows. So that was like a big thing. So I've heard of him through that, but now I'm like, I need to watch the show and actually really like submerge myself into this whole persona who was Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah,
if I can make a recommendation, anybody listening who does not know Anthony Bourdain, I would start with his piece for The New Yorker from April of 1999. Don't Eat Before Reading This. That's the title of it. It's available online. It's easy. You can find it and read it. That really sets the stage. You get his voice from that very first piece he ever had. And it wasn't actually his first published work, but like that's the piece that broke Anthony Bourdain to the world. It's a great place to start. You can jump into the shows anywhere, but that piece really sets the scene of how he became this breakout star doing food and travel in the world.
I love it. I'm ready to read it.
It's so good.
Yeah, my recommendation would be, Rosa, because I know you love Japan as much as I do. Probably my favorite episode of his, I forget the season, Parts Unknown, the Tokyo episode, totally iconic. Like, there is a clip from that episode about the first time traveling to Tokyo and what it feels like. And I remember my friend sending me that clip before I took my trip to Tokyo. And I was like crying because like I was nervous to do the flight over there, but it really like touched me. And now every time I see clips from that episode, I reminisce about Tokyo so much. So it's a good episode and you really can jump in anywhere. So that would be my recommendation. Parts Unknown Tokyo episode. Love it. It's iconic.
Well, and Tokyo was cool. Japan was a destination he loved a lot because he had actually visited, he had not traveled very much before he became Anthony Bourdain. He was a chef. He would travel to St. Martin in the Caribbean for his like escape New York winters kind of holiday. And as he grew as a chef, he was invited to go on a trip to Japan. Japan was really his first big international non-North America trip. And he writes about that in the Kitchen Confidential book, because there's a book of, that's kind of the book that breaks him out after this piece in the New Yorker. So that's why I think he kept going back to Japan, is because he'd had that sort of like transformational experience that it's, I wouldn't say Japan is special, but Japan is very special for that. A lot of people, especially from North America, have it in Japan because Japan is a really accessible Asian country with a very different culture. But he had that too, and he wrote about it, and I think he was always trying to go back and capture that magic and give it to the audience, which is why those episodes, all the Japan episodes are good. Every single one of them is great.
Anything Japan, I'm a fan of already, so.
I think there's 7 or 8 episodes, so You're good. You got lots.
Definitely adding that to my list. I know when we went to Colombia, so this was actually before he passed away in early 2018, we had traveled to Cartagena, and this was the first time that we were visiting this particular area. And I remember searching like restaurants. Cartagena's on the coast, so obviously good seafood. And I came across a couple of his videos, and we went to the one restaurant that he had suggested, which was delicious. And it was like kind of like a hole in the wall spot that probably we would have overlooked. And that's what one of the things I really enjoy about him is just finding these like hidden gems, which I kind of have, I don't know, it's like a good and a bad thing because I feel like sometimes some places get a little too popular where sometimes they kind of either lose the quality or maybe the service is lacking. So it's like a catch-22 when some of these places kind of get that visibility.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I want to kind of like, I want to give a shout out, but I'm also going to say like we can throw the blame on the fixers, the location scouts, the people who were on the ground recommending places, because really they knew what they were doing when they found a place that Anthony Bourdain was going to eat. Interesting that we're more than 7 years after his death. I think a lot of that fervor has died down where you don't get that sort of like rush on a place that maybe people would go to for the first few years after he visited somewhere and you saw it on screen. I kind of keep track of how many of the restaurants he visited are still open, and it's pretty steady, which means that these businesses were probably like pretty stable. They were good before he visited. They were good on screen. They're still good now, so they're still in business. So I think the location scouts and the fixers on the ground they did a great credit to him because they brought him to places that were good and survived him visiting. Were still good afterward too.
They did their research, so.
Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds like a good job for me. Like, just
I know.
need to scout restaurants around the world.
I was just thinking that. That's an excellent job. Let's just go around the world and eat.
If you want to get a really cool insight into that job, some of the Vietnam episodes, he becomes really good friends with his, I think he called him like a local fixer. And that local Vietnamese person ends up repeating on screen through several future episodes after they first kind of meet in the early show.
Well, that's so cool. I really need to do a rewatch now. I'm just like ready to turn my TV on and be like, hey, can I have this playing in the background as we do this episode?
Sounds awesome. But I know Bourdain often said travel isn't always pretty. So how, Valerie, do you embrace the imperfect or uncomfortable moments in your own travels?
That's the quote in the Borneo episode, by the way. Yeah, I guess it's interesting. I think I embrace it and I've internalized it. I think when you just go into a default of understanding that travel is not this picturesque story that we see on social media, when it inevitably goes wrong, you roll with it a lot more gracefully. Like things go wrong all the time. People are like, why do you travel so much? Things are always going wrong. And I'm like, that's what travel is. Things go wrong at home. I don't make a big deal out of that. Why would I get mad about things going wrong on the road when there's a lot more logistics and a lot more things happening I'm not in control over? I think, the other one would be like food poisoning. Like he regularly said he got food poisoning all the time. I get sick all the time when I travel, not from food. Usually it's just me. But I get sick at home. I mean, I'd rather be sick somewhere beautiful going try and sightsee than sick sitting at home on my couch. So for me, I think
I'll take food poisoning in Greece over food poisoning in New Jersey any day.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some really bad, there is something about food poisoning that's particularly rough because the two things you want when you're sick is your own bed and your own toilet. That's my philosophy. Like when I get home, I want my pillow and my toilet. And when you have food poisoning abroad and you don't have those two things, it is very much worse. I've had food poisoning, 2 really bad bouts of food poisoning while traveling, specifically from traveling, and I wanted nothing more than just to be transported home immediately.
Yeah, it just
like
it
you
makes
said, travel is not always perfect, and it's the mindset. So you have to kind of roll with the punches and just pivot when things don't go the way you planned.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like reminiscing about that time that I was practically projectile vomiting on my flight back from London to New Jersey, and I had neither a bed and then just the airplane toilet. And I was thinking, why did I do this to myself? But it was worth it going to London because I love London. Rough.
Yeah, my last bad bout of food poisoning, I was in London. It wasn't from London. It was from a restaurant in Manchester. And I believe no fault of their own. I don't think they did anything wrong. We ate oysters. So like when you Google like, can oysters make you sick? The CDC is like, never eat raw oysters. Okay, we eat raw oysters in the world. It's a thing.
Eat them all.
Too late. I'm already sick.
Roll the dice.
Yes, it is a roll of the dice. I drew what they call in Dungeons and Dragons a natural one. It was miserable, but we, my husband and I both got it. We were just laid up in the hotel. We just watched the BBC for a few days and eventually like wandered out and did a little bit more sightseeing before we had to go home. It is what it is. It's life. You just roll with it.
And you still
Exactly.
got
Just
the
gotta pivot.
sightseeing.
Exactly. One of the things that resonates with me is about being open to experience and try new things and not always having a plan. I mean, I'm very type A sometimes where I do have to have a little bit more of a rigid itinerary. Like I need to know where I'm staying, accommodations. I can't be that adventurous, but sometimes finding those adventures or finding those hidden gems or when you stumble upon these like hidden places, that's all part of travel. That's all part of the new experience. So I think that's one of the things that he at least conveyed in a lot of his like episodes was just that. It was just like be open, right? Because travel, it's supposed to put you outside of your comfort zone, whether it's eating raw oysters in London or being a little bit more safe in what you're eating, but just experiencing a new destination and just being open to the experience altogether. So I'm just curious, what advice would you give the travelers who want to explore more authentically, especially when food is a gateway?
That's a great question. I will not pretend to be any sort of expert on what it means to be authentic because I think that obviously is somewhat personal of an answer. What I think when I try and be creative when I'm traveling, say I'm traveling a place that Tony didn't go. And so I'm going to be ordering. I like to look around. I like to look at what other people are eating because especially I sort of have a radar now for more non-touristy. I don't really like that touristy phrasing of it, but like non-touristy restaurants, I'm more willing to take risks and go in places that like maybe don't look as put together or maybe aren't rated as highly on Yelp or Google or whatever. And then just looking at what other people are eating, because if you're eating where locals are eating and you're eating what they're eating, you're eating locally. And I think that is often a great way to just be like, I want whatever that person's having. Like that looks really good. What is that table having? I have no I have no self-consciousness about ordering that way. Like I will just say like, or I'll like hear up. I'll be like, hey, can I ask what you ordered? Because it looks really good. Like nobody gets offended when you're like, your food looks amazing. I just want to know what it is. And that can often be a conversation starter. I think that's one really good way to do it when it comes to food, to try and, I won't say like travel authentically, because if you are self-conscious about that or you're not the kind of person that strikes up a conversation very easily, that won't feel authentic to you. But you can also ask the server like, hey, that table over there, like what is that? Like I think it looks good, I might want it. And if they say something you don't want, don't order it. Like don't order it. I did that once. I used to try and eat like what would Anthony Bourdain order. I ended up crying into my bowl of mussels because I don't like mussels, but I thought that's the thing on the menu that he would be most likely to order.
No.
That's
Yeah.
being adventurous.
That was a long time ago. I abandoned that rule that night because I said, look, well, it was like a combination of not liking the food and then feeling really bad that I was wasting the food. So that's the thing that's an important value to me is not wasting food. So I would rather order something boring and simple that I know I like. That's probably good, like a foundational piece on the menu, like a burger or a steak cooked properly, than get creative and end up not enjoying my meal and wasting a bunch of food. I'd rather be true to what I know I'm going to like and enjoy, because for me to share that experience like we all do with our audiences, it's better if I just have the thing that I know I like and then I like it. Like that's a good, everybody should be happy with that. Actually, that same restaurant where I ordered the mussels and I sent most of them back and felt so miserable about it, that dessert we ordered cheesecake because it was safe. Like I immediately was like, nope, we're going to overcorrect and go safe. And the chef came out at the end and he was disappointed that I'd ordered this cheesecake. He was like, yeah, I mean, we have such great desserts and like it's really popular and it's my grandma's recipe, but like there's so many more interesting things. And I was like, dude, you just sold me on it. It's popular and it's your grandma's recipe. It's popular for a reason and it's great. Like you shouldn't be ashamed or upset that your food writer or whatever like didn't order something. I ordered something that I truly enjoyed, that's special to you, that other people enjoy. That's all around. We're all winning there. Like there's nothing wrong with ordering that way. You should enjoy what you eat. Like there's some episodes of Bourdain where he's eating things he does not like, and it's obvious, and it's not fun to watch.
Obvious.
So like, don't do that to yourself.
So obvious. It's so
always
obvious.
my fear because I always eat.
It's always so obvious, but
I always eat with my
sounds good.
eyes, so if something looks weird or off, or the sauce is like interesting,
Yeah.
it kind of turns me off a little bit.
Yeah. I'm definitely like, I don't worry about how good things look, because I think some of the best dishes in the world don't look good. I mean, think about like homemade foods, people that make, and Tony ate a lot of home meals. We will usually, like my writers and I, we would note that if he ate some foods at home, in case you had the chance to try that dish at a restaurant, you would know that it was something that he had tried in that location. Some of those things are not pretty at all. I mean, pasta is not particularly pretty. They can make it pretty, but like at its core, it's noodles and sauce or cheese or whatever. I like to just think like, what are locals eating that is within the ballpark of things I might enjoy, and that's how I kind of guide myself.
So, has there been a particular dish at a destination that really surprised you? That would be something that you normally wouldn't order?
Ooh, that's a great question. I've recently gotten inspired by Bourdain. I've gotten more into trying organ meats when they're available. So when I was in Quebec City this past summer, there's several Bourdain restaurants, and there I had the chance to try chicken hearts, which I'd never had before. They were good. I wouldn't go for them every time, but they were good. It was a brewery of all places, like a tasting flight in chicken hearts. That's the Quebecois for you. They like have these beautiful juxtapositions of food and drink and formality and creativity in their food. And then the other in that same trip was I tried sweetbreads, which is I believe it's lamb like I could be off on that. I didn't want to look too closely at Google to see exactly what I was eating because I didn't want to freak myself out because I definitely get in my own head about it. And what I find is often those things are really delicious. And there's a reason our ancestors used to use the entire animal and they knew how to do that well. And so when you find a restaurant who is confident enough in a dish that they will serve it with that kind of like potential shock value organ, it's usually going to be great. Yeah. I think did that answer the question?
It did.
Okay. Yeah.
I know. I'm just like, I'm always like torn between trying something new and something different. But again, sometimes I kind of get in my own head. Normally, when I do go to a place and maybe they have something a little bit more exotic that I'm not used to, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it, but do not tell me what it is. And then just like you, Valerie, I'm not even going to Google it. I'm just like, I'm going to eat it. If I enjoyed it, I'll try it again, but I don't need to know the ingredients.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like if I can get it as an appetizer, and then if I don't eat it all, I'm like, oh, well, I was saving space for there was a restaurant in Quebec City where everything I ate was beyond my comfort zone, and it was incredible food. And so it was like, this is the payoff. Like sometimes you take the swing and it's worth it. Sometimes you take a swing and it makes you cry. Like more often than not, people are making good food and they're confident in their ability, and you're going to have a great meal if you're just willing to let the food be what it is and not like judge yourself or judge it before you even try it.
Exactly. And it goes back to what we were saying before about being open-minded, and traveling's meant to push you outside of those comfort levels.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember the name of the restaurant in Quebec that you went to?
Yeah, it's Le Fer de Ketchup.
I'm going to add that to my list the next time I go.
Just Google Bourdain, Quebec. You'll find it.
I'll find it.
That guide was fun because
right
now
up.
I've been to the 2 places he ate in Quebec City, so I have photos.
Yeah, for sure. So, Valerie, in addition to being a foodie, which is amazing, you're also a travel writer and a blogger, and I love your content. So, Tony, he really did have a gift for earning people's trust. Like we talked about that whole parasocial connection that he had with his viewers.
So how do you bring the same empathy into your own travel writing and travel style?
That's a great question. When I am writing about traveling somewhere, I always try to think of as though I'm writing to an individual person. I think it's easy in the kind of medium that we all work in, and even on social media, to feel like you're broadcasting. And so you want to like be generalized. And I think if I remember I'm writing for a specific one person that's reading it, and I want to give them the best advice I can, that sort of helps me make decisions about what to include, what not to include, what advice to give. Because at the end of the day, if I'm sitting down to write something, I try not to write for discouraging people from doing something. Usually if I have a bad experience or something, I just won't write about it. Like they'll just be omissions. People sometimes ask me like, oh, why didn't you include this restaurant? I'm like, honestly, I had a bad experience there and I didn't want to disparage them. So I just didn't include it. Like, yeah, it's an omission, but it's an omission for a good reason because they don't want me to say negative things. And I'll tell you personally, if you're asking me why I didn't include whatever restaurant or whatever dish, but I genuinely want everyone to have a good experience when they travel. I understand that I can't control that for them. Like there might be flight problems, luggage might get lost, food might not turn out cooked the way they want it to be or whatever. But I want to have them to at least be like, well, Valerie gave good advice. Like, yeah, everything didn't go perfectly according to plan, but like that advice she gave was really solid. And so I think for me, it's keeping that one-to-one relationship of it's me writing for you, Rosa, reading it. Like that's it. And then it's me writing for Rachel reading it. Like it's me writing a broadcast thing that a lot of people read, but at the end of the day, it's the person consuming it is just a one person and they need the best advice that I can give them. And as long as I keep them in mind, I'm being empathetic because that's how I interact with people in real life. So it kind of translates through.
And I like what you said too about being like authentic. And again, sometimes you might go somewhere and your experience might be a little bit off. I'm also the same way. Normally don't write anything negative or if I had a bad experience somewhere, unless someone specifically will ask me like, "Hey, have you been to such and such place?" Then I'll give them like my honest feedback because I feel like sometimes with the hospitality industry, things go wrong. Maybe they had a leak and they're just like backed up, or like maybe their staff called out and they're short staffed. There's longer than normal wait time. So anything can really happen. So just because I had one negative experience, now granted, if the food I just didn't like it, or if the service was that terrible, I probably just won't go there again. But I typically don't write any negative comments or anything like that, or negative reviews, just because like you never know what's going on behind the scenes sometimes.
Yeah. There are times that I have gone far enough to include saying, like, there's a reason I'm not recommending. So, like, there's one I'm thinking of, it's a hotel post. It's like where to stay in this one place in Alaska. And I actually have a section like, why didn't I include X hotel on this list? And I explain why. And it was not like a one-time issue. It was repeated issues that I'd had that other readers had reported to me. Like, it was a consensus that was forming. And at the end, I'm like, you may still choose to stay here. Like, you may. That is your choice. You are reading this. It's your trip. If that's where you want to stay, that's where you want to stay. I hope you have a great time. That's it.
Exactly.
That's
At
all I
least
can say. Like, yeah.
You did your part as far as putting the information out there. But
Right.
I know for myself, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I love trying new cuisines, and sometimes food is like such a good like comfort too. I remember one time we were traveling, I think this is when we went to Italy, and our flight was delayed. We were having like some issues when we landed, and we went to this one restaurant and everything was so, and we just went, I think it was like brunch. It was early in the morning. Everything was so good. I wanted to cry because I was so happy. I was like, we had such a crappy time getting here, but the food is amazing. You know, we had the backdrop of the Coliseum. It just kind of completely like changed my whole outlook and my day just got brighter. And I think all I had was like an avocado toast. Like it wasn't eating anything out of this world.
Yeah, for sure. Trial makes food taste better. Like the effort or the difficulty of getting to a great meal when it is even like a medium good meal, like a mediocre meal, it can elevate it. I have stories like this. I'm like, I go back and I'm like, this is good, but it's not as good as I remember. Well, yeah, but the day that I first visited, it was pouring down rain and it was windy and we've been driving for 6 hours. All the backstory that made sitting down to that plate of fish and chips so much more satisfying than it really was. Like the second visit was great. It was not world altering like the first plate.
It's like they say sometimes the journey is just as important as the destination.
Yeah.
But going back to Tony, so he believed that food was a great connector. Was a meal or moment when you truly felt that same connection?
I have been thinking about this one ever since I got the list of questions from you guys. This is a tough one. I think because I have been very fortunate to travel so much, there are a lot of times I've had this experience. And so it's hard to pick just one. I think often for me, the most memorable times when I've sat down to have a meal and really felt connection, it's through meeting a person where they are. So it's often a meal that is very much not in the context of the way I would normally eat. So a good example I'm thinking of is when I was in Jordan the last time, the country of Jordan, Bourdain, never visited. Part of the experience is we stayed at an eco lodge. I was with a small group. We stayed in an eco lodge. And in the morning, we went out and we met a farmer, like a Bedouin farmer, and he made us bread and tea and fresh butter from his goats. And he literally he made it in the dirt on the fire. He had processed this milk himself into cheese and butter. And like the tea it's like everything about this was such a different experience that meeting him in the way he lives and the way he eats every day, that's what made it feel like a real point of connection. We didn't even speak the same language, which in itself should be a barrier, but instead wasn't a barrier because we were sharing this experience of him literally making us food. I think it's tricky for travelers because a lot of times when we travel, we don't eat with the locals. Even if we're at a restaurant that's really local, we might either be eating by ourselves or eating with our travel companions or our family or whatever. And so you don't have that opportunity to connect with people. And so I think that is why most people might have a hard time thinking of that kind of experience. It's really when you strike up a conversation with someone, when you're chatting or whatever, that you get the opportunity to even have a connection through food and drink. Because if you are just sitting by yourself or with your fellow travelers who are from the same place you are, you're not going to have that same experience, that same opportunity. One country I think does this super well is Ireland. I feel like Ireland's hospitality, and Jordan is the same, really, really solid hospitality. People are just naturally welcoming to visitors and outsiders. Ireland, when you go into a pub anywhere, you're going to strike up a conversation, and that gives you that opens the door for you to then, maybe you sit down, maybe some live music starts, and before you know it, you're having that kind of experience over a drink or over a meal. I think a lot of other countries, it's not as naturally conducive to that kind of experience. And so, it does matter where you go as to whether you're going to even have the right conditions and the right people willing to talk. Like, great example, I was in London a couple months ago and I was like alone at a bar, offered a guy to like sit next to me on this part of a bench, and he was like, I'm good. And I was like, okay, I'll sit here alone and talk to nobody. I tried. I tried.
I swear I don't bite.
And also as a woman talking to a man, I'm not hitting on you, dude. You need a place to sit. I got a seat next to me, whatever. It's kind of like you can only do so much too. You can't manufacture those experiences. You have to like create opportunities as much as you can as a traveler. And hopefully the locals let you in, because it's really them letting you in, even though you may be making the invitation for them to connect with you.
And that's a good point too, just embracing like the local culture. I know when we went to Tanzania, we went to this restaurant, and the tour company that I use, she took us out for lunch, and we were with our tour guide, and she said to me as soon as we arrived at the restaurant in Arusha, she was like, Rosa, I just want you to trust me and just follow my lead. I was like, okay, I had no idea what she was talking about. So she takes me. They had like a little area for us to like wash our hands. We sat down. She ordered the food. I said, no worries, go ahead. I'll trust you. And what she meant was, for them, a lot of the stuff that they eat with their hands. They're not using like forks and like knives, and like they had like this like bread that they would like dip, and it was all very like relaxed. But she was saying for some people that it's like, oh my gosh, like, no, I'm not eating with my hands. I need a fork. I need utensils. So I embraced it. And then the second time we went to a similar restaurant, I already knew the drill, washed my hands. I sat down. I was like, all right, what are we eating? I was like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
So it just opens up that new experience, because back home it's a little bit different, but sometimes you just have to embrace the local cultures.
Right. And I think you and us talking about it, it makes it sound easy, right? We're like, oh, you just do it. We've practiced. If you think about stepping out of your comfort zone while traveling as a bit of a muscle you need to grow to be used to that discomfort and embrace it. Obviously, Bourdain did that. It was his job. He did it all the time. He did it 250 days a year. He was out traveling and doing that for his mind and his body and his appetite. We all do that more because we're professionally in the travel industry, so we travel more, so we have more opportunities. So if you're listening at home, you're like, yeah, but I would be so uncomfortable. Yes, it's also uncomfortable the first time you go to the gym. It is. There's no way around it. I wish I could make it. Yeah, I keep quitting the gym and going back. I keep doing it. Yeah. So it's the same thing as, we talk about it sort of like we have all these stories to reference as you listening, but anyone can grow this muscle of being open and experiencing the world and, being uncomfortable and being okay with your discomfort while exploring.
Exactly. So what would you say, or what would be some recommendations for travelers that they want to get out there, but they're not necessarily sure how to approach unfamiliar foods, or maybe they're just hesitant or nervous, especially when traveling to a new destination?
I think I would, like I said, I would tend to be more conservative. I wouldn't go for the craziest thing on the menu. Like, stepping out of your comfort zone does not mean jumping out of your comfort zone. It means like maybe you just start by putting a toe out and getting used to that feeling. In terms of new destinations, I think a lot of times, if anyone, probably a lot of your listeners, a lot of people listening are in the United States, we have lots of interesting cultures and cuisines that you can start practicing before you leave the country. Because I think the double whammy is going to a foreign cuisine in a foreign country and not speaking the language. That is a surefire way to just get in over your head and like maybe ordering something that's totally wacky that you're like, what did I order? I don't even know. I don't even know if I want to try it, but would it be rude to send it back? In the US, we all speak English. Everybody can kind of manage in that language. So you can order and try new things and get used to that feeling of trying new things without having to be in another culture and another cuisine.
That's a good recommendation too, at least for us being in New Jersey with New York City. There's so many amazing like places to eat, all different types of cuisines. I know when we were going to Japan for the first time, we kind of did our own little DIY food crawl, and we went into New York. We hit up a couple of different stands and like tried different like Japanese like cuisine. So we were a little bit more prepared. So when we went to Japan, we're like, okay, we know what this is, and we were a little bit more adventurous in trying the local. So Valerie, how would you say, how can travelers move beyond sightseeing and start connecting the way Bourdain did?
This is a great question because I don't think you should just like move beyond sightseeing. Like, when you go to somewhere new that you've always wanted to go, don't let Anthony Bourdain or us or anybody tell you what you should and shouldn't see that you really want to see. Like, consult for a lot of people who want to go to London. And if they're like, I really want to go see Big Ben and ride in the London Eye, I'm like, great, let's do it. Let's make that happen for you. Like, I'm not going to tell you, oh no, there's this secret underground museum that you'll like way more. Like, no, go do the things you really want to do. And then see what you find on the way when you're walking around, when you see where people are moving, as you notice, like, you're in the area, pull open your Google Maps and see what kind of points of interest pop up sometimes. Sometimes you'll be in the area, like this happens to me every time I go to London, where I end up having either like too much time or something falls through and I'm looking for something new to do. And I'm just like scrolling around on Google Maps, looking to see what's in my area. Well, that place looks interesting. Oh, could I go try that? That's a great way to just discover stuff. And it might be bad, but at least you tried it. The other thing I would say is that, Bourdain did a lot of major sightseeing. Like he did. The layover, he hated making that show. It's very clear when you watch it, he was not having any fun. It was part of a contractual obligation that he needed to fulfill to his network. But they went to destinations and did sightseeing and did food, like the most popular foods, because it was basically like the premise of what would you do if you had a layover in the city? You would go to the top sites. If you only had 5 hours in Amsterdam to explore, you wouldn't be like looking for the neat little underground thing. You'd be going, I've never been to Amsterdam. I may never get back to Amsterdam. Let me go do that stuff. So I think a lot of times his legacy is most like acutely described as the parts unknown saga, like that part of that's his era, as we would call it. But he had other chapters. He had other ways of creating content and other mediums. And I think that's why he was so widely appealing, is that he did create different types of travel content for different kinds of travelers. So if you want to go do something sightseeing, do it. And then like, when you step off that attraction or you leave that museum or whatever, pull open the map and see what's around. And then maybe like zoom out one time and see what's around there, because it's even more likely to be something hidden away that you didn't even know about.
Yeah, and that's a good thing too, but having a little bit of a loose agenda. And again, every traveler is different. Like I said, I tend to be a little bit more type A. Now I'm trying to be a little bit more relaxed, where I'm just like, all right, I kind of have an idea of the things that I definitely want to see. And then from there, kind of wander around, see what I'm going to stumble upon. But one of the things I do like to research are the places to eat. So definitely doing that research for me is key. So I love how, again, you put that all together. If someone wants to kind of see those places that Anthony Bourdain recommends, and I like how you upkeep it too by noting whether or not these places are even still operational. Is there a reason why you still keep that information as far as any businesses that have been closed?
Yes. So my goal in every article, which we try and update every article once a year, there's 250 of them. So basically every weekday, all year long, there's a new guide. The whole world, everywhere he went, we've covered it, except Russia, because Russia's geopolitical stance is not agreeable. I want to recognize the places he went, even if they're not open, because one, there are foods he ate at those places that you might want to try somewhere else if you see it on the menu, just like the home meals that you used to have with local hosts. And two, I think it's worth having a true database of everywhere he ate, even for places that aren't open. People come to the site and they find it valuable because it is comprehensive, like the full meaning of that word. It has everywhere he ate, even if you can't eat there anymore. And that's always disappointing when I was like originally writing articles and being like, oh man, Cleveland, where I live, 5 of the 6 places are closed. Like that sucks. But hey, people are curious where he ate, and oh wow, he went to this sausage place. Maybe I'll try and find somewhere that makes good sausage. Oh, he had pierogies. Oh wow, that's because there's lots of Polish people. So if I see pierogies on the menu, maybe I'll try those. And like, you can still have a little homage as a Bourdain fan, even if you're not eating at the exact location that he ate at.
I love that. It's a nice little base to start with.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things that I tell my daughter all the time, it's like when something scares you, you want to try something new for the first time. Like for myself personally, I always say I'd rather fail than not try. Like I don't want to look back in time and be like, man, I wish I did such and such. I'd rather just say like, I tried, I failed miserably, move on, right? Things happen. Not everything goes as planned. And I feel like that's one of the things that he conveyed as well, was that, again, travel is not perfect. You're going to fail. You're going to have some adventures. You're going to go to places that you're going to eat and the food is probably going to suck. But that's all part of the experience. That's all part of the adventure. But at least getting out there and just like adventuring, trying new things, visiting new destinations, and not letting fear stopping you from experiencing all these wonderful things. So if you had to sum up traveling like Bourdain in 3 words, what would that be?
In 3 words. Oh, I think I missed that part of that question.
We're going to end with a bang.
Okay. I think I would say be open-hearted. I think looking at his whole catalog of work, he was an incredibly sensitive person to other people. And that's part of what made him such a good host, is that he was sensitive to his guests. He was sensitive to culture. He was sensitive to his audience. He cared very deeply about what he was doing and doing it well. And so if you can be open-hearted and remember that the people, like we were talking about earlier, like the people at a restaurant, if you're having a bad experience, you don't know why you're having a bad experience, really. It could be they're just jerks. It could be. It's perfectly possible. It could be that they have something going on in their life. It could be that there's financial problems in the business. It could be somebody's having financial problems at home. There's so many reasons that something might not go perfectly on your trip, whatever trip you're on. And if you can just be open-hearted and remember that you're dealing with other human beings and trying to be empathetic to the life that they're living where they are, that you are a guest in, really, everywhere you go, you are a guest of someone else. Even if you're paying, you're still a guest. You will be, I think, honoring his memory in a really important way. I think if we could all be open-hearted with each other and vulnerable and care about each other a little more, the world would be a lot better.
Yeah.
Broadly speaking, I think we could use a lot of that in our lives. So I think that's probably it. Be open-hearted.
And that's definitely like a good way to kind of end things there, because I feel like with him, he was very authentic. He showed his character. He kind of wore his heart on his sleeve. And I think that having empathy, it does make the world a better place because we can be more understanding. And sometimes people think just because you can travel the world, it makes you more open to certain things. You can still be a jerk. You could visit in every country in the world. That doesn't make you any more knowledgeable. But I do feel that travel does open up for you to see how other people live, to experience different cultures, and hopefully it does make you be a little bit more empathetic to others and other situations. And like you said, we can definitely use more love around the world. But let's switch some gears and do some fun little rapid fire questions.
I'm ready.
Are you ready? All right. So, would you rather street food or fine dining?
Street food.
That's adventurous. Although, I mean, I do like fine dining, but right now I'm in a budget, so I'm going to have to go with street food.
I mean, I'm the kind of person where the tour guide's like, we're going to this stop. And I'm like, but what about that one? And they're like, oh, no. And I'm like, there's locals eating there. Why can't I eat there? Let's go. I'll pay for it. I don't care. Let's go.
You're like, let's stray away from the route.
Yep.
All right, so food tour or a local cooking class?
I gave it away. I'm a food tour person. I'm not a chef. I'm not a cook. Not at all.
I tried doing a cooking class earlier this year and it was a ton of fun, but I think I would do the food tour because one, I get to eat and I'm probably walking and sightseeing at the same time. So I feel like I'm being a little bit more productive than just like cooking and eating.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
Definitely tour.
So sit at the bar or sit at a table?
Sit at the bar.
Same. Especially if I'm by myself. If I'm with my family or friends, then obviously the table. But if I'm alone, definitely sit at the bar. Like you said, you can maybe meet some local. Hopefully somebody sits next to you and you're not sitting there by yourself.
Yeah, well, there's always a bartender. There's always somebody behind the bar.
Bartender.
And also there's a great equalizer of everybody sitting alongside each other. Bars really bring people all to the same level, which I think is why they are so ubiquitous around the world of having that sort of model of eating. Even in Japan, even in Ireland, sitting next to one another makes us equals as we eat.
That's a good perspective. All right, small town diner or a big city hotspot?
Big city hotspot.
See? I thought you were going to go with small town diner. Threw me for a little loophole there.
I love small town food, but if I have to choose, it's no question I'm going to go to I want to be in the heart of something, a big beating heart of a city.
Awesome. Well, Valerie, thank you so much again for being on the show. So before we wrap up, any final words for our listeners?
No, I think I hopefully did Tony some honor tonight. If you want to follow along, eatlikebourdain.com. It's going to be there for you. It's a resource I plan to keep as long as I'm ticking. And then I'm on Instagram as well. And so if you are a Bourdain fan and you've been to places he ate, I love sharing other people's content from different places they've ate that he ate. So it's at Eat Like Bourdain on social media on Instagram. So yeah, I'd love to connect with any. I call us all enthusiasts. Tony's Twitter bio said enthusiast. That was one word bio. And so I call us all enthusiasts because we're enthusiasts about the world, about trying new things and eating and connecting with one another.
I know. I'm always excited for food.
Yep. Me too. I'm always enthusiastic about good food.
All right. So thank you again, Valerie, for joining us today. It's been incredible hearing your stories, your love for food, and your perspective on traveling like Anthony Bourdain. For our listeners, be sure to check out Valerie's blogs, Valerie and Valise, and Eat Like Bourdain, and we'll make sure to include everything in the show notes as well. There you're going to find some amazing travel tips, culinary adventures, and a true dose of Tony's spirit. We hope today's episode inspires you to explore more authentically, taste fearlessly, and connect with people wherever you go. So thanks again for tuning in to Bon Voyage Besties, and until next time, keep wandering, eating, and opening your hearts to the world. Bon Voyage Besties! We'll catch you on the next episode.